There are figures in history who did more than shape their time. They shaped time itself. Their ideas, their visions, their very existence ripple through the ages, transcending their own era to touch ours. One such man was Imhotep, he who comes in peace, but he was destined to shake the world. Physician, architect, sage, high priest, poet, astronomer, engineer. A mind so brilliant that centuries after his death, he was no longer remembered as a man, but as a god. His achievements echo across thousands of years, but somehow, his name has been obscured by history. The genius who laid the foundations of civilization itself has been reduced in the modern world to little more than a footnote. This is the story of Imhotep, the story of a visionary who saw beyond the limitations of his time. But this is not just a story about the past, it's about us, because Imhotep lived his life in pursuit of truth. Imhotep was born around 2700 BCE in the land of Kemet, what we now call Egypt. This is a time before pyramids, before grand temples, before the glory of Ramses or Tutankhamun. Egypt is still young, a kingdom seeking its identity. Before Imhotep, tombs were simple mud brick structures built to house the spirits of kings. Then came Step Djoser, a ruler who sought to defy impermanence, to etch his reign into the stone of history. For this task, he needed a mind unlike any other, a mind that could see beyond the present moment. He found that mind in Imhotep, a man of extraordinary intellect, born not into royalty, but into a world of craftsmen and scholars. His father, Kanofa, was an architect. His mother, Keriduank, was deeply involved in temple life. From a young age, Imhotep stood at the crossroads of spiritual wisdom and technical mastery. By the time he entered the royal court, he had already mastered writing, engineering, mathematics, and medicine, all in an age where knowledge was a privilege reserved for the few. He would go on to reshape everything. Before Imhotep, no one had ever attempted to build in stone on a grand scale. Temples and tombs were built with wood and mud brick, materials doomed to crumble with time. But Imhotep envisioned something different. Instead of a simple mastaba, he stacked layers upon layers, creating the first pyramid in history, a 6-step monument rising 200 feet into the sky, the Step Pyramid of Djoser, the first great stone structure in human history. This wasn't just an architectural revolution, it was a shift in consciousness. For the first time, humanity had defied time itself. This pyramid was not just a tomb, it was a statement that man could reach beyond his mortality, that thought could outlast flesh. And it all began with Imhotep, the first true architect of the ancient world, and maybe, in a sense, the first architect of civilization itself. Imhotep's mind extended far beyond stone. His genius spanned disciplines, and nowhere was this clearer than in the field of medicine. At a time when illness was believed to be caused by curses and spirits, Imhotep saw patterns and causes. He wrote one of the earliest known medical texts, documenting over 200 medical conditions. He was the first recorded physician to recognize that disease had natural causes, not divine punishment, understand the circulatory system centuries before Hippocrates, and also the first to use surgery, bandages, and antiseptics long before modern medicine. His knowledge was so advanced that, 2,000 years later, Egyptian doctors still swore by his teachings. Even the Greeks, who would later dominate the intellectual world, worshipped him as a god, equating him with Asclepios, the deity of healing. A mortal man, deified for his mind. How often do we think of greatness as something beyond us, something reserved for the few? What if Imhotep's story is not about a man who was different, but a man who was aware that knowledge is power, that wisdom is timeless? Imhotep was never forgotten. Even as the centuries passed, his name remained. By the time of the New Kingdom, temples were built in his honor. Pharaohs left offerings at his shrines. Sick men and women prayed to him for healing. By the time of the Greek and Roman empires, his influence had spread beyond Egypt. His name was spoken in whispers of reverence, his teachings absorbed into the foundation of Western medicine, and today, his pyramid still stands. His wisdom still shapes architecture, science, and medicine. His name, though obscured by time, still demands to be remembered, because Imhotep was not just a man of his time, he was a man beyond time. And now, the question returns to us. What ideas are we building that will outlast us? What knowledge are we seeking? The past is not gone, it lives in the ideas that refuse to die, and so long as we continue the pursuit of truth, we walk the same path as those before us, a path first laid by Imhotep.